everyone, it's Miss Sophia from Miss Waz English Communication Centre. We're back again today with our 100 Common English Verbs series. And in today's video, we'll be taking a look at some different verbs starting with letters K and leading all the way to letters O. So are you ready to get learning? Excellent. Let's get going. Which of the below words is not a verb? Is it avoid, buy, or gorgeous? It is, of course, number 3, gorgeous. This is an adjective and not a verb. Let's take a look at our first set of verbs. But before we can read them, we need to fill in the blanks. Pause the video for a moment if you'd like and try and fill in the blanks yourself. Did you manage to have a go? Okay, let's get going. Our first verb is keep. Our second verb is kiss. Third on the list is kneel. Fourth, no. Number 5 is laugh. Number 6 is learn. And number 7 is lend. Did you manage to get a few of those right? I hope so. Okay, let's move on to match our verbs to our pictures. Let's take a look at those verbs again. We have keep, kiss, kneel, know, laugh, learn, lend. Now, let's look. Number 1 is keep. Which of these pictures do you think represents keep? It is, of course, this picture right here. Number 1, where they have kept some special memories in the box. Number 2 is kiss. These two lovebirds are kissing. So this is our number 2 verb, kiss. Number 3 is kneel. This is Colin Kaepernick and he is kneeling. Number 4 is know. This girl shows she's had an idea, so she knows something. Number 5 is laugh. You can see here, of course, President Obama laughing. Number 6 is learn. We can see the knowledge pouring into her brain. So this is learn. And finally, to lend. Here is someone lending money. So this is lend. Did you manage to get a few of those correct? Great stuff. Okay, let's move on. Now we've matched our definitions up to our verbs, let's take a look at what they mean. Keep. Keep. To keep is to have or to continue to have something in your possession. Kiss. Kiss. Kissing is to touch lips as a sign of love, sexual desire, reverence or greeting. So you will often kiss the people that you love. Kneel. Kneel. To kneel is to go down or stay in a position where one or both of your knees stay on the ground. No. No. This means to have information in your mind or be aware of something through observation and inquiry. So you might say, I know about English literature through reading lots of different books. Laugh. Laugh. This means to smile while making sounds with your voice that show that you think something is funny or you are really happy. Learn. Learn. this means to gain knowledge or skill in a new subject or activity. So you might say, I learnt how to dance recently. It's something I always wanted to learn. And finally, lend. Lend. To lend is to give someone something for a short period of time, expecting it to be given back eventually. So you might lend your friend a book, but let them know you need it back before the exam next week. Now we've learned some definitions, let's move on and listen to some clips. Now, let's listen carefully and answer the following question.
When she opened her eyes, he was kneeling in front of her. He was holding a beautiful silver ring with a mesmerising blue stone. She'd never seen anything so beautiful. He finally asked her the question she'd been dreaming about since she first laid eyes on him. Of course, she answered. He placed the ring on her finger and kissed her. She will cherish it and keep it safe forever, just as she will do for him.
Which 3 verbs did you hear in the passage? Did you hear laugh, learn and kiss? Did you hear kiss, kneel and keep? Or did you hear know, listen and kneel? Take a few moments. The answer, of course, is kiss, kneel and keep. Did you hear all of those verbs? If you didn't, go back and have another listen and see if you can hear them this time. Okay, are we ready for our next set of verbs? Awesome, let's go. Now, before we can read this list of verbs, we need to unscramble the vocabulary. Again, pause the video for a few minutes if you want to take the time to unscramble them. Okay, let's see if you got those right. Our first word is lose. Our second verb is manage. Our third is melt. Fourth on the list is mention. How are you getting on so far? Have you managed to get any right yet? Okay, let's move on to our last 3. Number 5 is miss. 6, neglect. And 7, negotiate. How did you get on with that activity? I hope you got a few of them right. Okay, now we've unscrambled our verbs, let's take a look at the definitions and see if we can match them up. I'll read through the definitions for you one time and then we'll match them up together. Our first definition is to try to reach an agreement or compromise by discussion with others. Fail to hit, reach or come into contact with something aimed at. Fail to notice, hear or understand. Start thinking about which verbs these could relate to. Be deprived of or cease to have or retain something. Make or become liquefied by heat. Fail to care for properly. Refer to something briefly and without going into detail. And be in charge of a company or establishment. Okay, let's take a look at our first definition and see which verb it matches up to. To try and reach an agreement or compromise by discussion with others. This is negotiate. So you might try and negotiate a new contract with your boss if you'd like to talk about changing some things in your job. Number 2, fail to hit, reach or come into contact with something aimed at or fail to notice, hear or understand something. This, of course, is miss. Number 5. Next, be deprived or cease to have or retain something. This is to lose. Number 1, lose. Next up, make or become liquefied by heat. This, of course, is melt. So, we left an ice block in the sun all day and it melted. Next on the list is fail to care for properly. This verb is neglect. Next up, we have refer to something briefly and without going into detail. The verb we would use here is mention. So maybe she mentioned something about the party, but she didn't tell me too much about it. And finally, to be in charge of a company or establishment. This is manage. Did you manage to match all those definitions up? Great job if you did, and don't worry if you didn't. We're going to take a look at the definitions now. Okay, now all of our definitions are matched up to our verbs. Let's read through them. Don't forget to repeat along with me so you can practice your pronunciation. Lose. Lose. This is to no longer have something because you do not know where it is or it has been taken away from you. Manage. Manage. This is to succeed in doing or dealing with something, especially something difficult. It can also mean that you are in charge of a company or establishment. So, if you'd like to use the word manage in a sentence, you could say, I'm really struggling to manage my workload at the moment. I'm overloaded with different tasks. Melt. Melt. This means to make or become liquefied by heat. Mention. Mention. To mention is to refer to something briefly and without going into detail. Miss. Miss. To miss is to fail to do or experience something, and often something planned or expected, or to avoid doing or experiencing something. So you might say, I woke up so late, I missed my exam. Neglect. Neglect. To neglect is to fail to care for something properly. So, if we want to use this in a sentence, we might say, he didn't take care of the cat correctly. He was neglecting it. So they took it away from him. And our final verb is negotiate. Negotiate. To negotiate is to try and reach an agreement or compromise by discussion with others. So you may negotiate a price when you are in a shop or negotiate a salary increase with your boss. Now let's listen to the clip and answer the following question. Make sure you listen carefully.
Her friend forgot to mention the time of the appointment had changed, so she completely missed the interview. She was really disappointed to lose the opportunity, as she thought she was in a good chance of getting the job.
Which 3 verbs did you hear in the passage? Did you hear miss, mention and lose? Melt, manage and miss? Or neglect, negotiate and lose? So, the 3 verbs that she used in the passage were miss, mention and lose. Did you manage to hear those? Great job if you did. Okay, let's move on to our final set of verbs for this video. You ready to go? Excellent. Let's move on. So, before we look at our last set of verbs, here they are written in their phonetic form. Take a few moments to have a look at the phonetics and try to read them aloud and work out what verb they are. Okay, now you've had a little bit of time, let's read them out and work out what they are. Our first word is neutralise. In the UK, we spell it with an S, and in the US, they use a Z. Our second verb is observe. Next up is organise. Again, in the UK, we use S, and in the US, they use a Z. Next up is overcome. Then we have overtake. And finally, we have own. How many did you manage to get correct? I hope you got a few. Okay, now that we have our list of verbs, we're going to try and match them up to the sentences and fill in the blanks. So, let's quickly read through the sentences without using the verbs, and then you can take a few moments to try and do it by yourself. We our house. Always check your rear view mirror before you another car. Eventually, she managed to her shyness in class. Most schools social events for their students. The role of scientists is to and describe the world. And finally, he tried to the tense situation. Take a couple of minutes to have a look and see if you can fill in the blanks. Okay, are you all done? Let's fill those blanks in. So, number 1 is we own our house. We own our house. Number 2, always check your rearview mirror before you overtake. Before you overtake another car. Eventually, she managed to overcome her shyness in class. She managed to overcome her shyness. Most schools organise. Most schools organise social events for their students. Number 5. The role of scientists is to observe and describe the world. To observe. And finally, he tried to neutralise the tense situation. He tried to neutralise. How many of those did you manage to get correct? I hope you got a few, and great job if you managed to get them all. Okay, now we've filled in the blanks, let's take a look at our final verbs with their definitions. Don't forget to repeat along with me so you can practice your pronunciation. Neutralise. Neutralise. This means to stop something from having an effect. To make something neutral means you balance it out. Observe. Observe. To observe is to notice or perceive something and register it as being significant. Organise. Organise. This means to arrange into a structured whole or order. So you might say, I like to organise my books alphabetically. Overcome. 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 This means to succeed in dealing with a problem or difficulty or defeat an opponent. Overtake. Overtake. To overtake is to catch up with and pass while travelling in the same direction, or become greater or more successful. So you might say, make sure you look before you overtake someone so you don't have an accident. And our final verb is own. Own. To own is to have something as your own possession. So like we saw before, we own our house. Okay, time to listen to our final clip of today's video and answer the following question.
So Hannah, is there anything you'd like to discuss regarding your contract?
Yes, there is actually. I feel that I've taken on a lot more responsibility and have shown dedication to the company over the last 18 months, so I'd like to negotiate an increase on my salary if possible.
That's definitely something we can look into, Hannah. Let me discuss with Michael and get back to you by the end of the day.
Which of the below verbs does the girl use to talk about stopping the fight? Does she say overtake, neutralise, or own? The correct answer is neutralise. She says that she tried to neutralise the situation. Okay, now that we've learnt all of our 20 verbs for today, let's practice. Pick 5 to 10 of the 20 verbs we've learned and talk about something that has happened to you. So, I've chosen mention, miss, overcome, laugh, and organise. So, I might say, the night before my interview, I felt very organised. I had everything prepared and ready to go. But the interviewer had failed to mention that they'd moved the interview to another day. I arrived at the situation and I had missed my interview because they had moved it to a day earlier and not told me about it. We laughed about it in the end and I overcame the obstacles, but it wasn't great at the time. Try and pick 5 verbs that you are not so familiar with and use them to describe a situation that's happened to you. And that's it for our K to O verb video. I hope you've learned some new verbs that you can use in your day-to-day life, and don't forget to come back for our next video. Thanks again for watching, and don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Take care and I'll see you soon. Goodbye!
Miss Hoa giao tiếp, độc quyền phương pháp phản xạ truyền cảm hứng.